If you have a fair shop that's already making some sales, but the orders are still inconsistent, retailers aren't reordering, and you still cannot figure out why, I need you to hear this. It's not because you're not working hard enough, and it's not because your products aren't good enough. It's because you're flying blind. And there is data sitting in your fair dashboard right now telling you exactly what's working and what's broken. But no one has ever taught you how to read it. And so you spend time just guessing. I know because I've been there. And you change random things and hope something sticks. And here's what that guessing actually cost you. The average fair seller doing around 10 orders a month is leaving somewhere between $17,000 and $70,000 in profit on the table every single year just by staying stuck. My name is Andee, and I built and scaled my own wholesale brand on Fair from the ground up. And I'm one of a handful of sellers and industry experts that Fair pulls in to test the platform, which means I see how the algorithm actually behaves, not what the forums and the other coaches are teaching you, but what Fair actually rewards. And I took everything I learned and turned it into the Fair 5 framework. It's a 3-phase system that moves you from inconsistent orders to a predictable wholesale revenue engine in just 90 days. It's visibility, it's positioning, it's conversion, it's reorders, and a momentum that compounds. So this is not just a course that you watch once and forget. It's a growth operating system. Just a few extra wholesale orders, which you will gain quickly throughout this program, will more than pay for this course. So if you're done playing small and fair, if you're ready to stop guessing and go beyond the visibility and drive real conversions and reorders and get help along the way, learn more and apply at fairaccelerator.com or at the link in the show notes. I'll see you inside. What if the reason your sales feel exhausting isn't that you're not posting enough? It's that you built your whole business on a platform that can change the rules overnight. My guest today did the exact opposite. Holly Haynes walked away from the daily content hamster wheel and built a 7-figure business through systems, SEO, and old school offline strategy, all while working a Fortune 500 job and raising twins. She's the founder of Anti-Social School and host of the Crush the Rush podcast. And she's here to prove you can scale without ever dancing on a reel. Welcome to She Sells Differently. Hi, friends. Welcome to She Sells Differently, the show for aspiring women entrepreneurs looking to overcome the fear of selling and grow thriving businesses from a place of authenticity and confidence. I'm Andee Hart, and it wasn't all that long ago that I was a sales executive for a Fortune 500 company. But I knew in my heart that I was called to use my gifts for something more, something different. That's exactly why I created the She Sells Differently podcast. Each episode is going to deliver you business strategies, tools, and mindset shifts to help set you and your brand apart from our culture's expectations. It's time to elevate your sales and build a profitable, sustainable business you're proud of, one built on integrity, grace, and humility. It's time to learn how to sell differently. Welcome, Holly, to the She Sells Differently podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Yay, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited about this conversation because I know my listeners are going to hear this topic and just be so interested because I think social media is something that we all struggle with, whether, how much we're online and all of the things, just overwhelmed with the whole process. So I want to first, before we kind of dive into that, I want to talk about your career first because you kind of had what you and I both kind of had a similar background. You had a what I call a safe version of success,
Yeah.
Fortune 500 career, twins at home, and you still built a business on the side that outgrew all of it. So what made you start and what did that look like for you in the early days?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I call it the bus stop story, but if you go back to like 2020, which is when this business started, it kind of started by like happy accident. And it was really me sitting at work thinking like, can I really do this for the next 10 years? Like, is this really what I want to do? And at the time I had twin daughters who were in kindergarten, which if you work full time at like a high, executive level, it's a lot. Like, it's not
Mhm.
designed for working moms. I mean, I think it's a little better now, but not much. And I just remember being really tired and like not inspired. And I was just like, I really like my job. I like having a role where I have responsibility, and I don't want to walk away, but I just wonder if I should be doing something differently. But I didn't know what that was. So I kind of went into it backwards, and I actually hired a business coach, which sounds wild because my entire background is like business strategy, marketing, systems. Like, I worked in corporate for 22 years, but to translate it to the online space is very different.
Yes.
And so I was like, I just wanted somebody to like help me take my skills and like translate it to a space that maybe I wasn't as familiar with. But then the pandemic hit, which was like, oh gosh, I just spent like, 5 figures on a business coach. I have no business and the world's shutting down. What should I do? And
Mhm.
so, long story short, I started the podcast called Crush the Rush. And my philosophy was, okay, I just want to get out of the like off the hamster wheel. I just want to get out of the rush, and I want to think through like how can I just create things differently. And so the podcast actually is what started it all, because I used it as a platform to share what I was doing, how I was doing it. And I think at the time, it's really what people wanted to hear because it was very real life. I mean, I was recording like in my basement in the dark, like while my kids were taking a nap in between like corporate calls, and I would talk about it. And so I feel like that has just grown into where we are now. And it's very much like I share a lot behind the scenes, like real life strategy, but it turned into what I call the bus stop dream. And that is, how can I create a business where I can put my kids on the bus and pick them
Ugh,
up? Because it's weird times, right? The bus comes at weird
yeah.
times. And so that was like my whole goal, and we met it. And then after we met that goal, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna quit my corporate job and then just sit in front of a computer all day. So I
Yeah.
created this family rule where we travel once a quarter, and it can't be grandma's house. So I feel like I'm always just like, okay, well, what's the like life thing that I'm trying to work towards? And then I'm gonna build the business or the system or the things around it. And we've sort of just kept going. And that's how we got to where we are now.
That's awesome. I love to travel, so maybe
Yeah.
I should adopt that role too.
So I will tell you, I made it up. Like, I didn't think it through at all, and every 3 months is actually it feels like a lot. I was like, "Okay, maybe twice a year," but it's been really fun. Like, my girls are 12 now, and we've taken them to, like, 11 different countries and done, like, we just got back from an Alaskan cruise this summer, and so it's been really cool to very intentionally build our business where we're able to really help fuel, like, how we wanna raise our family and what we want that schedule
Yeah.
to look like.
And that's so important because I think back about the time, like when I was growing up and we traveled a lot and we traveled all over. Mostly when I was growing up, it was within the US, but I just remember this sounds kind of like nerdy, educational, but it was like as I got older and went, in school, they would talk about things or places or like cultural things. And I was like, oh, I've seen that. And so that was really cool to just grow up that. And I
Yeah.
love that you're able to build a business that provides the memories and just the education for your family and your girls.
Yeah.
So, as we dive into the anti-social strategy, I want to call out that name because it's really a bold name. And so,
It is a
what
bold
do you,
name.
yeah, what does it actually mean in practice?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I'll tell you another story because Taylor Swift is very popular in our household, and I was trying to think of so the strategy existed before it had a name, and I was, like, trying to think of a name that would stand out, and her song, "Anti-Hero" came out, and I
Yep.
was like, "What if we just, like, called it out? Like, what if we were just, like, really blunt about it and direct," which I feel like does great with marketing right now.
Mhm.
And it just sort of stuck. But the interesting thing is antisocial is actually a very social strategy. It's just not social media focused. So for me, because I was working full time, at the time it was like, post 17 times a day on Facebook
Oh,
and
yeah.
share every second of your life on Instagram. And I was like, I cannot do this. One, because my boss is going to be like, what are you doing? Are you not working for me right now? But also, we're in a pandemic with, you know, all that going on, 2 young kids, and I was like, "I don't have time to do this. I have to figure out a different way." And because of my corporate background, I was like, "Hey, there are some other ways that you can become visible that has nothing to do with this," because most large corporations at the time were not, like, posting reels on social media, and guess what? They were doing very well.
Right.
So I sort of came up with this philosophy of like, okay, what are 3 or 4 things that I can do behind the scenes on my own schedule, during naps or whenever we're not on a trip or whatever that schedule looks like, that's gonna help me grow, where social media is like the plan B. I call it the sidecar.
Mhm.
Sometimes I post, sometimes I don't. I actually posted last night. My girls are at gymnastics. It was 8 o'clock, and I posted like a family update. And I was like, "You know what? That's just fun." Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
drive our sales. Sales do not come from social media. Um, so for me, it's just fun. It's just if I want to, I can. If I want to go on a break, I can, and I'm not stressed about it. I
Yeah.
have clients that are completely offline. I have clients that have ginormous followings and like want the system behind the scenes to like match that. And then I have clients like me who are just kind of like, if I have time, great. But if not, I'm not going to stress about it.
Yeah. I love that for you, you're not saying never use social media. You just kind of put some boundaries around it, and I think that that's so healthy.
Yeah, I try really hard to spend less than an hour a week on
Mm,
social. And so if you
I bet
can't tell,
that's
I have a
hard.
lot of rules that I like to follow. So it's like, okay, we're gonna travel once a quarter. I'm not gonna spend hours on social media. And so I like to just like protect my boundaries a little bit.
Yes. Amen. I think we all need to do that regardless of what business or what our life looks like for sure. So, um, as you talked, you mentioned something. You said that social media is not driving revenue, and I know a lot of business owners believe that if they stop posting, then sales stop. So I would love to hear for you what is actually driving your revenue instead of the social media
Yeah.
algorithm.
Well, if you're listening, I'll give you the question that I ask all my clients, and that is go look at your data and where did your sales come from? My sales come from people who listen to our podcast or who listen to me speak on podcast or who listen to me speak in communities or who are on my email list. I think the stat is like 71% of our sales come from email. So I have a very robust email strategy. I also have a very robust speaking strategy, which means if people can hear my voice, if they can hear my story, if they can we have a new puppy and it's barking in the background. Like you might hear her barking. Like they're like, okay, she's a real person. Like this is not some like made up thing that has like all the fancy bells and whistles. And that has converted best for us. So I always like to ask, like, go back and look at your data. Where did your last clients come from? Most people will say referrals, or I went to speak at this event, or I met them at a networking thing. And I think we forget to go back and look because if we post a reel on Instagram, let's say, we get this like, this endorphin rush of like, oh,
Mhm.
this was really fun. And like 5 people liked it. And I feel really good. I did something for my business. But most of the time, and there are some like, people that crush it on social and they should keep doing that. But like most of the time, it doesn't lead to a sale. Um,
Yeah.
and so for us, those are sort of the levers that I try to focus on because I can see the data coming in of like, okay, if I speak somewhere and I can get people on my email list and they get to know me and they hear from me, then it will convert to a sale.
Yes, it's so true, and when I look back at my data, like, rarely is it from sales or from social media,
Yeah.
and so it's been something that I've even wanted to, really put more limitations onto in my business just because it's not something I enjoy, and if it's not moving the needle, then why are you
Yeah.
spending time on it,
And I
you
think
know?
people just forget to look at, like,
Yeah.
what's moving the needle, and they're like, "Oh, I did go to that networking event, and that's where that person found me," or, "I did, send a really amazing email, and this person responded," or, "This person did reply to Sally, and Sally recommended me," and I think we forget to look at those, like, those pieces, and those are really what does move the needle.
Yeah. You mentioned something about systems earlier, and so I would love for you to walk us through the systems piece. So, for example, like when someone is used to waking up and scrambling for something to post, then what is the system that replaces that scramble?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard habit to break, so, like, my first system is, like, just give yourself 24 to 48 hours without social and just see how you feel.
Mm,
Even if you go back to posting, you probably will feel much better, like, there's a reason that the brick and all of this is, like, making all of this money. But there are a couple things that I like to think about, and it's sort of this like pie. And that is the first piece that you should have is what I call a home base. And the home base is a piece of long form content that is not social media. It's also not email, right? So to me, email is the second piece. Email will nurture or sell, but there should be some long form content that attracts people. So the nice thing is this could be a blog post, it could be Substack, it could be I sort of think YouTube is an option if you like to do video because it is more SEO than social. But there's lots of different things. It could be a podcast, it could be a private podcast, but there's something that you're creating that's saying, I'm a leader in this space and you should pay attention to what I'm doing. And it has to be consistent. And I think that the interesting thing now is the consistency has always paid off, but now it's paying off even more because of SEO and GEO and all of these like engines that are rewarding really good quality content. So I like to
yeah.
have a new piece of, let's just say, thought leadership. I am holding this space and I'm excited to tell you about this once a week. Now, when you hear that, you're like, "Oh, that's a lot of content," but it's the platform that you love, right? So, like, I could record 5 or 6 podcasts in a week, and it would feel very easy to me, and so you have to pick what feels easy. If you like to write, maybe it's Substack or a blog. If you like to talk, maybe it's a podcast. But you wanna pick the thing that you can be really consistent about, and then it sort of has this, like, hub and spoke model after that because you can repurpose it. So you want to have a repurposing strategy so that it starts to very intentionally go to different spaces. I think right now our repurposing strategy for one podcast episode is like 17 different places.
Yeah.
Now I will say with a big asterisk, I prefer quality over quantity. And so you want to make sure that you're being very intentional with like where you're sharing it and how you're sharing it. That's the second piece. And then the third piece is getting people on your email list. So when you're speaking, when you're sharing, when you're writing blog posts, where are you pointing them back to? And this has to be something really strong. I think the lead magnet game is people know, right? Like they're going to opt into something that they really want and you better deliver and it better be
Yeah.
something like juicy and good. It cannot just be a PDF. So one of the things that we love is a private podcast and it, walks you through our antisocial framework. I'm giving you a taste of like what it's like inside our community. So it's really important that you have something that's like a wow factor,
Mhm.
which I think right now is really fun. Like you can be so creative. It doesn't have to
Yes.
be what everyone else is doing. And then the last piece of this is make it searchable and findable. So, like, don't forget the SEO. That's huge right now. And then have an email strategy to continue to nurture and sell. I could go on and on about each one, but that's sort of like the framework that we have in place. And so when I do go speak on a podcast, I'll share a private podcast. When I do write a blog post, I'm going to share places where you can get more information. We may have pop-ups on our website that, you can opt into different things. And so there's all these little pieces and parts that if you hear our content or you find our content, it's going to like very organically draw you in to our email ecosystem. And then the goal is that you stay there and hang out with us for a while.
Yes. And stay tuned because we are going to share your private podcast
Yeah.
here in a minute too, which I'm super excited about diving into. So, before we do that though, I want to go back to you mentioned SEO, and SEO scares a lot of creative
Yeah.
business owners. It sounds technical, it sounds slow. And so, for someone that's selling products or courses or whatever you're selling, where does SEO actually move the needle? And where have you seen that in your business?
Yeah. So the stat that I like to share is we get recommended on average about 50 times a month by Claude, ChatGPT, whatever platform is going to come up. And that was like by happy accident. I did not realize that until I started looking at my analytics, which, if you remember, is the first step that I said, like, go look at your data. And so it's really, really important that you are creating content. That's number one. So I have a planner as an example. That's a product. And so it's really important that I have blog posts on my website about how to use my planner. Who is the planner for? Why is the planner for you? One of the posts that I love is a competitor post, like, and it's comparing, okay, well, why would you
Mhm.
choose this planner over another planner? And what that's doing is it's helping all those search engines recommend you to the right person. And so, really thinking through, can I put content on my website or even in my content that I create that's going to answer questions about the product, objections about buying, how to use it, what makes it stand out? As an example, ours is printed locally and it's designed by me and like an all women team. And so I like to share that. I also like to share that it's not just a planner, it also has like tutorials that are embedded in it so you can listen to like how to use it. So anything that you can create content around on your website, which is a blog, is super easy, that helps all those search engines find who you are and what you do. I think another really great tip for local business owners and products is local SEO, like
Mhm.
embedding where you're at. If you have a store or a storefront, like that local SEO is huge. But if you're listening and you're like, well, that sounds great, but SEO makes my head spin, it also makes my head spin. And that's where honestly, and this is like the best tip you'll get of the day on the podcast. If you log into Claude and you say run an SEO audit, it's literally / SEO dash audit. It will audit your entire website and it will tell you exactly what shows up, what you're known for, whether that's what you want to be known for or not, and what the best next steps are. And so I really started digging into, okay, well, how can I optimize my entire website, which is essentially my home base, and start using words that people are searching for and start creating content that is answering the objections, because people are searching now and not scrolling. We're not scrolling Instagram to find how to run our business. We're typing it in Claude or ChatGPT, and then we're trusting the answer that comes back. And so we want to create the content that they can pull. I'm talking like they're people that they can pull and find the right answer. And so I think it used to be overwhelming, but now I try to sit down of like, okay, if someone wants to buy my product, what are 3 things that they need to know? Or what makes me stand out that I should share? Like maybe it's how you created it or why you created it or the story behind it. And then it's the consistency of creating that content.
Yes. I love that you talk about consistency. I have a whole blog, or not blog, a podcast episode just on consistency and the power of that,
Mhm.
because I think that that is something that most business owners, whatever industry you're in, whatever you're selling, lack. And
Mhm.
so, especially from my sales background, one of the things I know is that, if most of the time it's not your product or your service, and people think, the first time they put their product out there and it doesn't they don't hit their goals, it doesn't sell like they thought they wanted it to, then they think it's their product. And
Yeah.
it's not. It's usually just the consistency of that. And one thing I would love for you to dive into, because you know, my listeners are product owners who they often feel like selling has to be loud and
Mhm.
pushy to work. And your model is quiet by design. I love that. But what's the mindset shift that someone has to make to trust that quiet can still sell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're in my email, I would say it's not quiet, right? But like most people don't see that unless they're on our email list. Like we send sometimes up to 5 emails a week. And our open rate is, I think I looked this morning, it was like 48%. And so we've trained our lists to be like, okay, we're going to communicate with you and we want you to communicate back. And I feel like from a selling perspective, that has worked really well. So quiet for me is not necessarily quiet, we're not doing anything, but, like, it's not flashy. It's not the, like, quick wins, the bells and whistles, the trendy things. Like, SEO is gonna take a minute to set up. We have 650 podcast episodes, like, that took a minute
Oh,
to
yeah.
come up with, right? Like, this is not, like, I'm gonna build it in a day. But it's super sustainable and the home base is really, really strong. Like, I think of the home base as like a house and it's like a brick house with
Mm,
like cement and,
yes,
we've built it over time. And I think when I think of social media, I like to think of it as like the decoration. And I think everyone wants to go to the decoration first. They want to go to like the curtains and the paint colors and like the fun stuff. But sometimes I actually think doing podcasts and SEO is fun, but sometimes the back end stuff is what is going to sustain you for longer and allow you to step away.
for sure. I love that. It's so important to build the foundation. And sometimes building the foundation can just it takes time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I also love that you retired both yourself and your husband in under 2 years doing business this way. And so
Yeah.
when you look back, what is the belief about, I guess, quote, how business is supposed to work that you had to let go of first?
Well, sometimes I still don't believe it, if I'm being honest, because, like, no one in my family is an entrepreneur or had their own business. Like, some of my new clients who are a little bit younger, they're like, "Yeah, I did entrepreneurship in college." And I was like, "Yeah, that was not even I don't even think it was a word that people talked
Right?
about." So it was just, like, very different for me, and it's not something even now that is, like, really talked about. Like, all of my friends have, I wanna say, like, normal 9 to 5 jobs. All of my neighbors have, like, normal 9 to 5 jobs, and when they look at our schedule, sometimes I think, like, "What are they doing over there? Like, what are the Haynes household up to today?" Because it's so different. So, I think I had to really lean into, like, I wanna create the schedule and the lifestyle that works for our family, and I have to kinda let go of what everyone else thinks. And so I think that was number 1, and then I think even now going into it, it's like, maybe I'm not making $10 billion a year, but I was able to take my kids on an Alaskan cruise. I am able to have most of the summer off. I can work my business at 8 o'clock at night at gymnastics if I want to. And so I have to kind of like reframe what success is for us versus what like the outside world might think is successful.
Yeah, I think that's something that I struggle with often, especially as I've tried to set back to the boundaries piece,
Yeah.
try to set boundaries on my work hours and, coming from high pressure sales, I remember there were so many times that I felt I was stressed if I wasn't stressed at work.
Yeah.
Like, how twisted
Yes.
is that?
Yeah.
And
It's weird.
yeah, and so taking a step back and saying, "Hey, I don't need to work 10-hour days. I don't even need to work 8-hour days." And so this is I'm laying a foundation and building a business that supports my life, my family's
Mhm.
life. So that is yeah, it's such a mindset shift that I really believe, I mean, for me, I've had to work at sometimes daily. So,
Yeah, I will say the coming out of the corporate cycle into like, I had a really hard time adjusting of, like, "Wait, I don't have to get up at 5 a.m.?" Or, like, "Is it
right?
okay that I, like, go for a walk at 2 o'clock in the afternoon?" Like, yeah, I had to, like, retrain my brain of, like, "It's okay." Like, it's
Yeah.
different, but it's okay.
Yeah. It's so interesting too, along that note, as when I first, left my corporate job and became an entrepreneur full time, I was working long hours, and I think part of it is you're excited, you enjoy what you're doing, but as soon as I really started setting boundaries on my time and working less hours, but being more intentional, my revenue grew
Mhm.
tremendously. And so that it's very countercultural, but
Yeah.
it's there's something important about rest too.
Yeah, totally.
So as we kind of wrap up, if someone listening wants to take even just one antisocial action this week, so they don't want to, they're tired of the reels and the posting, what
Yeah.
is the single highest leverage move that you would tell them to make?
Yeah, I mean, I would say go look at your data because I don't wanna tell you to go do something that's working well, and I think we get into this like, "Oh, it worked for this person, so it's gonna
Yes.
work for me," and it doesn't work that way. Like, that person has, like, a completely different personality, a completely different business, a completely different product. So I think looking at the data is really, really important. I do it every single month, but, like, where did your leads come from? What were your highest opened emails? Where did your sales come from? And then I always like to ask, like, what felt really fun this month? What felt like really aligned? And then what
Mm.
are you like, oh my God, I'm never gonna do that again? Because we shouldn't have to, right? Like if we hated
Right.
it, we're not gonna do it. So I would look at your data and then I would really think through, okay, well, what's one way that I can expand on that that sort of matches this like antisocial strategy? Maybe it's creating long form content around that. If it's networking or speaking, maybe it's leaning into that a little bit more and then making sure that you're pointing people back to your home base.
I love that. I love that you use the word pointing back to your home base. I often say all roads lead to Rome, and that's what I
Mhm.
remind myself in my business. And so it's the same concept. And so just building a solid foundation. So um you mentioned earlier too that you have a private podcast. I'm super excited to dive into this myself, but
Yeah.
tell my listeners where they can find that. We'll obviously put it in the show notes, but what they will learn from that too.
Yeah, so it's called The Antisocial Shift, and it's 9 short episodes, but they're kind of different. So the first 5 episodes go through the framework in more detail than we went today. So it goes deep into like how to set up your own antisocial framework. And then the last 4 episodes we re-record every single quarter and it goes into like what's working right now, what like marketing trends are we seeing that like fits our model of not being on social media. And so it's very real time, very behind the scenes. And it's just hollymariehaines.com/shift.
Awesome. Yes. And we will also put that in the show notes so you can grab that easily. So
Yeah.
I want to encourage all my listeners too to go subscribe and listen to Holly's podcast, Crush the Rush. You will learn so much from it. And I have it on my podcast regular listens. And so I will also be on her podcast shortly too. We don't have the exact episode
Yeah.
dates, but we will let you know about that and put it out there for everyone. So any last parting words of wisdom, Holly?
No, I love this. I think I would just share to lean into your methodology, your wisdom, what feels good to you. And I think when you start to let go what everyone else is doing, like that's really where you start to see the shift, as we say. And it doesn't have to be on your phone or on your laptop all day long.
Amen. Such good words to end on. Thanks so much for joining the She Sells Differently podcast. And until next week, I am cheering you on. All right, that's a wrap on today's episode of She Sells Differently. Friends, it would be a huge blessing to me if you would take 2 seconds to rate and subscribe to my podcast. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Until then, I'm cheering you on in your entrepreneurial journey. See you next time.